Hey everyone, welcome to today's Program Yourself Thin podcast. Today we're talking about improving your worst eating habit. This is one of my favorite things to talk about because before we get into how to improve your worst eating habit, we got to take a step back and again, just think about the concept in which we think about weight loss because you have been trained your entire life by the diet industry to change everything all at once. So when you start your diet, usually on a Monday, you're not just going to improve your worst eating habit. You're going to change all of your bad eating habits and make them all perfect and great. As a matter of fact, you're going to take all of anything that affects your eating or your exercise or your body, you're going to do perfectly from now on. And so with dieting, you have been trained to think in terms of everything changes all at once, right? All or nothing. I'm going to completely change all of my eating. Right. So if you struggle with snacking at night or overeating at dinner or grazing during the day, well, tomorrow's Monday and I'm not going to do that anymore. And that's the idea. And so, listen, I'm not going to tell you to stop doing that, right? You've got your opinions on that or whatever. Knock yourself out. Okay. You want to stop everything all at once, go ahead. Okay. Now, that being said, the big difference with dieting versus Program Yourself Thin is that dieting is an all or nothing mindset and Program Yourself Thin is an all or something mindset. Okay. So in all or something is still this all thing. So that's why I say, go ahead. You want to start Monday eating perfectly. All of your bad habits are gone and you've completely stopped them. Great. Okay. You go ahead and do that. Now, with that being said, if you find that a day, a week, a month later, you're not able to be perfect with everything, well, I'm still going to be here for you. And I want you to remember this conversation because what I want you to remember is that you don't have to change everything all at once, even though that's what the diet industry has conditioned you to think. And so you don't need to change all of your eating habits at once. I know you'd like to, because I know that gives you the fastest results, but it's also the hardest, most difficult one to sustain. So what I'm here to tell you is that there's an alternative where if you start to feel overwhelmed, if you start to feel tired, bored, sick, whatever, and it feels hard to keep everything perfect, and you can no longer keep everything perfect, well, guess what? You can shift gears a little bit, go into something mode. And so maybe we can't fix all of our eating, but we can fix some of it. Okay. Kind of long-winded preamble to get to the point of fixing your worst eating habit. And so once you get in the position of acknowledging or realizing that you can't fix everything, and you're going to get to that point, realize that you can fix one thing at a time, a couple things at a time if you choose to. All right. And that's the real secret, because once you pull back from trying to change everything all at once, what happens now is you start to almost instantaneously become more strategic. You strategically can start to look at your eating and start to work on optimizing it. And I suggest starting with your worst eating habit. What's your worst eating habit? Your worst eating habit is the one that shows up multiple days a week or every day, right? So it's real simple, right? Again, if you snack at night, you probably do it multiple nights a week. When you're overeating at dinner, you probably do it multiple nights a week. Grazing during the day, multiple days a week. So we want to start with the habit that shows up repeatedly or shows up pretty much the most, the habit most responsible for the most calories coming into your body. Right. And we want to acknowledge that, identify it, acknowledge it, and then start working on it. And I love this approach so much because for most dieters, you've never done this. You've never done this because in the all or nothing world, everything is just, I'm just going to stop it. I'm just going to stop eating at night. And the stop eating at night really becomes this white knuckle willpower exercise. So most of the time dieters, this idea of kind of approaching their worst habit strategically, consistently, sustainably, it's disorienting. You've never really thought about it this way. But if you do, I think you'll find that makes a lot of sense. So let's just say, for example, I will use my example. When I was 50 pounds heavier, my worst eating habit was eating every night. I would snack every single night. And so I really focused on that. And I focused on that for months and months and months to get a handle on it, to figure out better strategies, to work with myself, to practice, to, reflect and figure out what I could do better. And so I spent months on this. And I think this is a concept that most dieters never really consider. And even when you hear it, most of the time you're going to excuse it out of hand because, again, it's going to be so slow and it's never going to work and I'm not going to stick with it. But you will stick with it because if it's not that hard, you're more likely to stick with it. And once you kind of get into this mindset, you start to realize that, yeah, okay, I'm going to work on my nighttime snacking. And that doesn't mean you're never going to snack again. That's the secret, because you are. And so what we're looking to do is to be able to keep the door open so that even when you make a mistake, you're still able to work on it. And so often improving your worst eating habit really begins by becoming aware of it, understanding it, reflecting on it. What's triggering it? Sometimes you're getting too hungry and then you're overeating and choosing the wrong foods. Sometimes you get real emotional, you're choosing the wrong foods. Sometimes energetically just get to a low point and you're choosing the wrong foods or overeating. It's always a little different. So the first step is to really start to take a look at what are your patterns, what's triggering them. Because once you understand these patterns in a deeper way, once you understand what triggers these patterns, then you can go to work on resolving them. And this is the path to long-term results that you're looking for. And the beauty of this is that not only do you get much better strategies when you approach it this way, but it's sustainable. You've got some flexibility. So if you're really in the game and you want to do everything great, go ahead, you can do that. But if you're feeling overwhelmed or tired or exhausted one day, you can still interact with it as well. You might mess up. Right? That's the secret. That to me is the big litmus test. If you can mess up with your reading and still be engaged in some way, that to me is one of the most important things. And so oftentimes improving your worst eating habits happens on the other side of the habit. Meaning, I'm going to work on my nighttime snacking. And to be honest, a lot of where you're going to do the most valuable work is after you just nighttime snacked. But then you reflect and say, what was going on there? What happened? I don't want to snack at night. How can I set myself up better? If I go back in time, knowing what I know now, what could I have done a little differently? And if you do this consistently with your challenges, guess what happens? Over a couple of days, weeks, months, you start figuring out how to behave differently in a comfortable way. You start to understand the habit and you start to solve it, fix it, so that it just works moving forward. And so it's a completely different mindset and approach to deal with your habits than what you get with dieting, which really there's no strategy at all. With that, it's just a white knuckle endurance test. And so when you start to look at this as a more layered approach and you start to approach your eating habits in a more strategic way, it kind of opens the door for you to understand them in more depth. And that opens you up to be able to find more elegant solutions that set you up for long-term success. So I hope this helps you out. And I hope you really consider this, because I find at the end of the day, this is fundamentally one of the biggest issues, that people don't improve their worst eating habits. They just 100% fix them in one day and it never lasts. So the alternative I'm saying to you is to give yourself more time, to give yourself some more flexibility, and to keep working on them until you finally get them down the way you want them to. So I hope this helps you out. And if you want to go deeper into this, make sure you click the link in my bio. Go get the free hypnosis session I made for you. I got a new report that's going to be available to you as well. If you're on my email list, I will send it to you afterwards. All this stuff's for free. There's also a training in there, and all this is free. So go check that out. If you're serious about your weight, you can click the link in my bio, or you can go to programyourselfthin.com and go check it out. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I see Sanjeet over there. How you doing? Sanjeet says, I've been doing your hypnosis meditation daily. Nice. Yes. So you're so right. It's a lifetime approach. Yes, that can be overwhelming sometimes. Absolutely, right? That's exactly right. It can get overwhelming sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that. I think dieters know it's going to get overwhelming, but they're so scared that it's going to go overwhelming and that they're going to quit that I don't know, they just get locked in this weird mindset. So agreed. A nice job listening to that session. Oh, Sanjay says, still waiting for the email. Yeah, if you signed up and haven't gotten the email for the hypnosis session, if it's been more than an hour or two, there's something wrong. First thing I would suggest is make sure you check your spam promotions email folder. And then the other thing is, if you still don't get it, you can click the link. You're not click link. You can send an email at jim@programyourselfthin.com and we'll get it figured out. Oh, so Shanjita, have you asked me this before? Menopausal meditations. I don't have any menopausal meditations, so you'll be waiting a long time for those. I don't have any of those right now. I should make some though, so that's a good idea. But I do not have any, so yes, you'll be waiting a long time if you're waiting for those. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. I know weight does seem like this is probably the least time of year when people want to talk about weight, right, during the holidays. But in my opinion, I think December is the perfect time for the something mode that I was just referring to, right? Again, dieters were all or nothing. Program Yourself Thin clients were all or something. And so I am absolutely in a something mode in December, and I'm very intentional about it. I might put a couple pounds on in December. I'm fine with that. Okay. Because again, I'm not looking to be perfect during December. I'm looking to minimize the damage. And it's a big distinction, because minimizing the damage is going to allow me to kind of meet the season the way I want to meet it. I don't want to just eat perfect during the holidays. Okay. But at the same time, I also don't want to go crazy and eat everything in sight. So I like that kind of middle sweet spot, is really what I'm aiming for. And for me, that works really well. And a lot of my clients does as well. So I hope you all get that. What's up, Bookworm? Bookworm says, changing the salad dressing choice to a lower calorie one worked. I've changed all foods that way. There you go. There you go. That's exactly the type of stuff I'm talking about. And those are the exact solutions I'm talking about that just arise when you start getting more aware of what's going on with you. Again, most dieters just think in such big, vague terms. I got to stop overeating. I got to stop eating sugar. I got to stop eating carbs. They just like that's speaking in such huge, vague, unspecific language that it's very difficult to make it work, because nothing works out the box. You know what I mean? You're not just going to start a diet and do it perfectly. Like, no, you're not. You will for a little bit, but at some point you need flexibility. You need to figure out real strategies that you can use all the time. And dieting is the opposite of that. Dieting is a strategy you can use about 10% of the time. When you're really, really fired up and motivated, it works. And that's it. And when you're doing it perfectly and when you're losing weight, as long as everything's going perfect, then you may stick to your diet, but nothing goes perfect in life. So, again, I think that I'm happy you say that, Bookworm, because again, that solution reveals that you're getting the idea of, again, being strategic and changing small things, paying attention to the little things. Because sometimes those are the biggest shifts you can make. I think dieters try and change way too much too quick, and I find the secret more often than not, the people I see getting the best results are the ones that have flexibility. Well, of course, we'll all make the big changes when we can make them. That's not a hard part. We all know that. The hard part with weight loss is to be able to stay engaged, making small changes. That's the hard part for most people, but it's the most important part. It's a crazy world. But anyways, yeah, so Jesus says your upward downward spiral is too good. Yeah, the upward downward spiral is really good. That's a session I give too. That is a motivation session. It's very powerful. So that's just another free thing I give. Again, if you're not on my email list, I don't know what to tell you, because I've got so much stuff coming. I love December so much. This December is the best December ever work-wise, because I closed up a lot of giant projects. I got my book. I got the proof of it coming tomorrow. I can't wait. I can't wait. So that's done and done. And so now I'm spending a lot of my time really optimizing the Program Yourself Thin system. So what that will look like for a lot of you, if you're in the program, I tested really driving the program through Circle. That has not worked out the way I want, because it turns out when Circle uses Cloudflare, and when there's Cloudflare issues, weird things happen in Circle. Like people can't access the stuff that they're supposed to access. So I've had it. So, tested it out, and now I'm fixing and optimizing, and everything's going to go to a membership site. We will still have Circle. We will still use Circle because I love it for a lot of good things, but it is too unstable to host the program on. So anyways, long story short, big things coming if you're in the program that you can look forward to over the next couple of weeks here is that the emails that you received with the sessions, those are all being redesigned. So they're going to have more reminder in them. They're going to look a little nicer. They're going to bring you to the session, and they'll have the evening session. It's going to be set up better. It's going to be even more supportive. Let's put it that way. Gym AI is getting an enormous update starting tomorrow. So that's really exciting. The way that you're being nudged and reminded to use Gym AI is going to be updated tremendously. So I'm really looking forward to that. So a lot of cool stuff coming. Yeah. So really exciting stuff. But anyways, Sanjita says, was having Diet Coke since 50 years and have given it up after following you. All right. Nice job. Nice job. Good job, Sanjita. That's what it is. It's little things at a time. You know what I mean? So that's a big one. It's huge. It's a nice job. What's up, Connie? Connie's saying hi over there from Facebook land. Curveball says, any advice for living with roomies family who love purchasing processed snacks in the home? Yeah, Curveball, listen, that's a challenge. That's a legit challenging challenge. That's hard. Okay. Right at the top of the list. I would say two of the biggest challenges you can have with your weight are living with or working with people that are always putting tempting foods out and traveling. I would say those are two of the biggest challenges you can have when it comes to dealing with your weight. That being said, they're challenges that can be overcome. All right. But you got a little bit of a longer path typically too, because you got to figure it out. So the first question becomes, Curveball, is how can I be more in control of my eating when I'm at home with roomies, family, whatever? And so again, the first thing we want to do is we want to get more specific. If you listen to me any amount of the time, you'll notice it's always the same process. Someone comes, usually it's almost always the challenge we have is kind of a big, vague one, and we want to drill down into it. So someone can say, well, my big challenge is who I live with. The people I live with, they're always eating the wrong stuff and putting the wrong stuff out there. That's really hard. And so we say it in a big way, and it makes it feel like it's all the time, it's constantly, and all the rest of it, and it's hard to figure that out. So what we want to do is we want to drill down and make it more specific, because if you live with people that are kind of, eating processed foods, for you, Curveball, let's just stick with that example, fill in your own example. But if you're living with people that it's kind of challenging, so what they're bringing in the house, we want to get more specific, because the first question, is it affecting you at breakfast? Is it affecting you at lunch? Is it affecting you during snack times? Is it affecting you at dinner, afterwards, right? We want to get specific. And it might be all of them, by the way. It's like, no, this shit's here every single meal and it's affecting me. That's fine. We just want to get specific, because if it's not, oh, now breakfast, it doesn't matter. I don't see him and I just got my own thing and I do that. Well, great. We don't have to think about breakfast too much. You see what I mean? So again, we're looking to get specific. It goes, I live with roommates, because you're not going to not live with your roommates. You're not going to not live with your family. Right? You're going to live with the person you're living with. That's not the answer. So we don't want to have just like this, the person I live with is the problem, because that implies to our subconscious mind the only solution is to not live with them. You see what I mean? And so your brain kind of shuts off a bit. And so we want to get specific, because we'll say, no, okay, well, breakfast is fine. And then lunch is okay. But then, it's dinner time, and at night they bring snacks, or, they'll bring pizza home for dinner. Okay, great. So now we're getting more specific. So now we say, okay, it's dinner time and snacks after dinner. Those are kind of the big things where living with these people is affecting you, right? And so we're getting more and more specific. And so then we drill down and say, okay, there's dinner and snacks are an issue. Is it every day of the week? Well, no, they're not there, Tuesday and Thursday, so it's not a big deal then, whatever. So we get more specific. And what we're looking to do is to get real clear about where are the challenges, what are the foods, what are the situations, because you may find, no, it's snacking at night. And I go and I look in the kitchen and they got all this stuff on the counter. Okay. So now the question becomes, how can I set myself up to succeed and stay on plan during the week at night when I go in there, right? And so again, I'm not saying this is the answer. I'm saying this sets you up to find the answer in a much more effective way. So I would begin to ask more specific questions, and feel free to ask them here. You can share more specifics about how living with your roomies family is affecting you, but get more specific with it. Give me more specifics about what specifically living with them is challenging wise, food wise, and we'll be able to find a solution a lot quicker. So feel free to put that in there, and we'll keep going with it. But I suggest that to all you. That's one thing I've learned. I've done over 6,000 private weight loss sessions. I've done this a long time. And I can tell you that far and wide, one of the most valuable aspects of coaching, when I get to coach with people, is that they're not, and this is me too, by the way. So this isn't even just like I can do this stuff with people and I do it all day long. All right. But just because I know how to help people move through challenges, I get caught in the same thing. And what happens is I got challenges in my life. And typically when I think about my challenges, I think about them in kind of big, vague ways. So I found coaching wise, one of the biggest things I've learned is helping people go from kind of a big, vague challenge to make it much more specific. And once you make it much more specific, that in itself does a lot of the work, because now your brain it understands it more clearly. So that's a strategy for everyone. Drill down. When you got a challenge, drill down into it. What's up, Kent? Kent says, what would the Thin Me do is the most influential hypnosis session for me, 14 months in, and still ask myself this daily. Yes. What would the Thin Me do? Right. In Program Yourself, then there's a whole hypnosis session component to it. There's a real strong support system with hypnosis sessions. And one of the core sessions, there are 8 core sessions. One of the core sessions is what would the thin me do? And again, the idea is that with Program Yourself Thin, it's not just about changing your behavior. It's about this inside out transformation. How do you become the thin, healthy person you want to be? And an aspect of that is thinking like the thin, healthy person you want to be. And a great way to develop that ability is to ask that question, what would the thin, healthy me do? And it's modeled on the what would Jesus do thing from years ago, right? But what would Jesus do? The idea was that you would elevate your mindset to think like Jesus would. You see the situation and move forward that way. And this is the same kind of idea, that the more you kind of up level your thinking into the thin, healthy, happy version of you, see the world that way, think about what decisions you'd make, you practice it, and that's a way to practice becoming the person you want to be. So I appreciate you saying that, Ken. I always like to hear people's favorite sessions. What's up, Shireen? Shireen says, Jim, over the last 2 years since I first found you on TikTok, you've helped me drop that dieting mentality and focus on my nutrition. I'm in this for the longevity and overall good health. Awesome. I always hesitate to talk about my weight loss, 10 pounds overall, but an easy one. That's super, Shireen. Yeah. Don't hesitate to talk about your weight loss here. I know people sometimes, because I'm always, kind of so against the dieting thing, but again, in Program Yourself Thin, we're absolutely celebrating the weight loss. No doubt about it. We just don't want it to be the only thing, and ideally it's the secondary thing to the fact that you just feel really great. You know what I mean? You really feel like the best version of you, but that's so awesome, Sheree. I'm super proud of you. And I'm going to screenshot that. My screenshot project. That might happen this month too. I got literally thousands of testimonials I've got to put somewhere. Yeah. And Shireen says, yep, I weigh every day because I still like to trend down slowly. I know, yep, my energy is fantastic. Yep, super. Yeah, Shireen's killing it, and that makes me so happy. Nothing makes me happier than people that really commit to the program and get the results they deserve. So Shireen, you are absolutely one of them, and I'm happy for you. And that's the exciting part. That's what I always try to say. It's like dieting has sold you such a shitty bill of goods, because with dieting, it's just about losing weight. And it's like, man, listen, it takes a lot of effort to lose weight no matter what. Program Yourself Thin, any diet, whatever. So it's like, if you're going to put all that effort and time into something, why not get more benefit out of it? Demand more than just weight loss. Demand that you're happy and you're healthier and your moods are more balanced and you wake up with more energy and you feel good and your body's more comfortable and you're more flexible and you feel alive and you're proud of yourself and you're successful. And you know what I mean? Get more of it. Want more. But that's awesome, Shereen. So I appreciate you sharing that. But yeah, any questions, feel free to ask them. Curveball says, thank you. Majority of the time it's dinner, pizza takeout, and what feels like unlimited snacks. Yeah, okay. I had a feeling anyways. That's usually the big ones. So again, you do this for a while, you start to notice the patterns. Okay, curveball. But now here we go, right? So now we can get more specific. And this is my favorite thing, is that instead of saying, oh my God, the people I live with, they're always sabotaging everything. Oh God, it's crazy. Well, where do you go from there? Right? There's nowhere to go. But now all of a sudden we get more specific, and the majority of the time it's dinner. And there's a lot of snacks around. Okay. So now, and again, I'm not saying it's life-changing that you just define it this way, but your solutions, we're walking a path. It's always a path metaphor is how I think of this. And so if you're struggling with people you live with, it's a path to figure out the answers and solutions. And the beginning of that path is just understanding it. And so now, curveball, you can say, okay, majority of the time it's kind of pizza and it's snacks. And I bet if you drill down into the pizza, I bet there's a pattern to that. I bet the pizza comes around more nights than others, And so I'd want to notice that pattern if there was one. Right? Because now all of a sudden, oh my God, it's dinner usually, it's pizza and it's snacks. And now you dial this, okay, well, it's pizza a lot of times, like Friday nights, it's almost like always pizza. Then there's usually, I don't know, they get a pizza usually like Monday or Tuesday night, they always get a pizza. So it's like now we get more specific. Now we say, okay, Monday and Tuesday and Friday night, I want to be more prepared because I know they're going to get pizza. How can I deal with that most effectively? Do you hear what I'm saying? Like, again, when you understand how to have a solution-oriented mindset and you understand how to run your mind, these challenges become like a puzzle for something you to figure out. And so we could go through the pizza, right? And just, okay, when's it usually show up? What's the situation? A typical situation where they get pizza, what are you doing? right? Do you know they're getting pizza? I bet you do, at least some degree. What can you do to manage the pizza better? I'll give you simple ideas. And they're just ideas, but here's one, so, okay, well, we do the pizza. When we do, say they order from a pizza place, I would say, oh, if you get pizza, make sure could you order me a salad? If that's the way it goes. If that's not possible, you pick up a salad on the way home. If that's not possible, you say, I'm going to have some salad stuff at my house. When they have pizza, I'm going to have a salad first, and then I'm going to have some pizza. And that might be a strategy. Now, again, I would go into, not that you're never going to eat pizza again, not that you're never going to eat their snacks again. Okay. I'm not saying that. I'm saying we want to take what you typically do, the typical pizza and snack eating in a typical week, and we want to make it better. So to me, a first pass on that is to improve by 20%. I usually eat 4 pieces of pizza, Jim. What can I do? Okay. My first goal is when pizza's around, I want to dial that down to 3 pieces. It's a 25% reduction. That's pretty good. Once we get normalized to that and comfortable with that, then we can dial it down another 25%. No rush. Okay. But I would look at the situations where the pizza shows up and I would start thinking about how could I improve it? Improve it. That's the key goddamn word. That's what I said today, right? I said the whole talk in the beginning was improving your worst eating habit, not completely fixing it, not just stopping it, changing it. I know that's what you want to do, but that's just not the way the brain works. You can't just change everything all at once just because you want to. I wish you could. Right? So yeah, that's what I would suggest. And the snacks, the same thing. The snacks, what's going on with the snacks, right? Because the snacks probably aren't as tempting and as challenging some nights as other nights, some situations as other situations, So again, I would look probably at nights too. I find snacking a lot of time is relative to the night, So again, start paying attention to the snacking, start noticing the habit first, always awareness first, and program yourself. Then we got the goal weight pyramid. And when it comes to eating, the very first part of it is awareness. And it's real important. So yeah, start to understand the snacking patterns and then go to work on them. Again, look to make them 20% better. Not that you're never going to snack it. Okay, it's Monday, no more snacking and no more pizza. No, you know what I mean? Don't do that. Don't do that. It doesn't work. Instead, let me say, okay, let me work on making the pizza consumption 20% better. Let me make the other thing 20% better. That's how you improve. You know what I mean? So I hope that helps you. And we go deeper into it too. If you want to talk about the snacks, we could break it down. But again, as long the real answer is to break it down. Curveball knows that. Fantastic advice. Thank you. You made it solvable. You're right. This really helps. Good. That's what I do. This is what I get to do, folks. You wonder why I always say I'm one of the luckiest people on the planet. And I genuinely mean that. I genuinely mean it. I think I might be one of the luckiest people on the planet. And part of that luck is what I get to do for work. I absolutely love what I get to do because I get to help people figure things out. And I love helping people figure things out. That part alone is fun, because what happens is, and we all do this. Again, any coach could tell you this. It's that we all run into walls. You know what I mean? Like we all live in our own world and we all run into our own walls. Now, the beauty is that a lot of times these walls they're real, but they're not as real as we think they are. You know what I mean? Like we run into a wall and we think, oh my God, the wall's here and wall. But a lot of times the answer is kind of take a step back and look at it from a different angle. And a lot of times we realize, oh, I didn't have to go down that path. I don't have to deal with that wall. Just understand what I'm saying? Like, I hope this makes sense, right? Think of it like a maze, right? But a lot of times when you're living life, you're going through the maze kind of first person, you hit the wall. Oh, shit. What am I going to do now? There's a wall in front of me. What am I going to do? I don't know what to do here, right? But you kind of take a step back and look at the big picture and you can see the maze. Oh, shit. I'll just come back here and go this way. I don't have to deal with the wall. And I think that's a great metaphor for how coaching really does help a lot of the times. That a lot of the times the walls you can just avoid, ideally. But then a lot of times, even if you do have a wall, you do have to deal with getting some perspective on it, starting to get some tools together to deal with the wall or whatever, can really help you move past it. And most people have such a greater ability to move past their challenges than they realize. What happens is we get stuck. And they've done great studies they've done some really interesting studies, neuroscientific studies on people that were doing, well, they were actually doing crossword puzzles, and they were tracking their brains while they did this. And long story short, they were tracking impasses, right? So basically that's the study of hitting the walls, right? And so they set people up with these crosswords, and they would see them psychologically, could watch them hit these walls. And there's basically two strategies for when you hit an impasse. One is that you just keep pushing against it, right? And you finally get through it. And that can work. Don't get me wrong. We've all done that. Okay. So that's one way to do it. That's the way most of us intuitively kind of choose at this point, is just keep bouncing against it. Hopefully you get through it at some point. But what they found scientifically that was much more effective is to step back from the impasse and then go down a different tunnel. So basically the way our brains work, a lot of the way our thinking works metaphorically, we kind of go down tunnels. Right. So even when it comes to weight loss, it's, oh my God, but snacking is terrible. The way we think about snacking, we've gone down kind of a cognitive tunnel to some degree that kind of forms the way we think about it. And so again, with crosswords, they were watching this happen. And so a lot of times we've gone down that path, that tunnel, and we hit the wall and we just keep on passing against it. Where a lot of times the best thing to do is take a step back to the beginning, choose a different tunnel. And it's hard for us to do that sometimes. We get very emotionally engaged, we get very cognitively engaged, and it's hard to disengage and come back, choose a new way. But a lot of times it's one of the most effective things. And even if the new way doesn't bring you to the new way might bring you right back to the challenge. That can happen too. But even that, could be helpful. And then being able to look at the challenge from different angles very often helps you figure out solutions to it. So if I had to boil coaching down to a nutshell, that's one nutshell I could boil it down to. Sanjita says, how can I get a private consultation with you, session with you, Jim? I don't really do private consultations. To work with me is $25,000. So, the people that find me, of their own accord. But, and again, I do still do, I don't really promote it very much, but I still do I guess you call it a private session where we do a session. I record a hypnosis session for you. You still get that. It's $2,500, but I think it's a much better value to get into Program Yourself than for most people. And, so I think that's a much better value for most people. Again, the people that get that kind of coaching, they already know what they know, so that they find me. But for most people, the joining Program Yourself, then right off the bat, when you join Program Yourself, then there's access to me every Tuesday. We have a live Q&A. And then if you really do want to explore coaching, there is a group coaching program, which is way more reasonable. So that's usually the best path for people that do want to work directly with me. Nancy says, I'm a newbie. I'm wondering if you could explain what the blueprint is. The blueprint is Program Yourself then is really three components, I would say. The first one is you got to know what to do, right? And so the goal weight blueprint is knowing what to do. It's a deep dive into the goal weight pyramid, which is really three things, right? In my opinion, to become a thin, healthy person and live at your goal weight, you need to know how to think, live, and eat like a thin, healthy person. So this is a deep dive into that. And again, we're talking about 144 pages here, right? So this is an intense manual, but once you got it, you got your own customized roadmap that shows you how to get motivated, how to deal with your identity and self-image shift, how to deal with your habits strategically, how to manage your emotions, how to think like a thin, healthy person, how to maintain, right? And not just maintain once you get to your goal weight, but how to maintain to get to your goal weight, how to deal with times of stress, how to deal with setbacks, how to deal with all that, right? So we go through all that in the mindset section. Lifestyle, again, huge, right? How you're living has a huge impact on how you're going to eat. So again, we dial that in very strategically as well with 8 core habits, and then eating itself. Obviously is super important. And we go through that with a 3-step process. First, awareness, structure, and optimization. That's the 3-step process we use in the program to get your eating to the place where you're able to live at your goal weight. So that's the goal weight blueprint, knowing what to do. So once you know what to do, you need to be able to get yourself to do it, because those are two totally different things. And that's where the Program Yourself Then method comes in. This is where you learn how to use the redo rehearsal technique. It's a 60-second mental rehearsal technique you use at night to program your mind to do the things that you figure out in here. All right. And then the third piece of the program is the hypnosis system. So every day and night you get hypnosis that you kind of bookend your day with a 5-minute session in the morning, a 10-minute session at night. That kind of bookends your day. So that's kind of the whole system in a nutshell. But so that's how the blueprint works. Lois says, I like your talk about it's not all about the number on the scale. My health coach had me weigh on Friday. The weight number was 3.6 pounds for a month, but the pure fat loss was 6.8 pounds down. Muscle weight was up almost 3 pounds, and body water was up 1.6. Wow, Lois, I really appreciate you sharing that, because can you see that, folks? Again, the weight in and of itself is not, it's a really rudimentary measurement. And a lot of people, especially if like you're working out as well, you really ought to have some other measurements you're tracking as well. Because if you're only tracking weight, I can almost guarantee you're going to get discouraged, because your weight's not going to move much, even though your body may be recompositioning. So I really appreciate you reminding us all of that, Lois, and great job. Great job. Okay. Because it's not just the number on the scale. You know, the number on the scale is one measurement, you know what I mean? But again, there's other things there. So taking measurements, you know, with a tape measure is a good idea, because a lot of times that'll show up. To me, the more measurements, the better, you know, because I've seen that so often that someone's weight is moving a little bit or not at all, but they are getting results, and they'll know that because they're doing other measurement systems. Either doing, you know, body fat, you know, advanced body fat, you know, measurements, even just regular old measurements, but just different ones. So I think it's a great reminder. So thanks for sharing that, Lois. Demi says, I fully lost motivation to lose weight. How do I get motivated again? That's a great question, right? And to me, it's the number one question. That's why in Program Yourself Thin, you know, it all starts with mindset, in my opinion. And the very first part of mindset is motivation. And I put that there because I think it's crazy that we're 100 years into diet culture. And if you really think about it, folks, you don't have any idea how to motivate yourself, which is a crazy thought, but it's true. If you really reflect on that, you don't know how to motivate yourself. You get motivated sometimes, and I could break down why you get motivated too. It's a pain-based motivation. I bet, here I go. You ever remember like Johnny Carson? He do the Kreskin thing, right? I bet I know what motivates you and how you all get motivated. I'm going to say a blanket statement. It's going to be true for all of you. I don't say this too often. You all get motivated if you're a dieter, if you're not in Program Yourself Thin. Your motivation works like this, that it happens spontaneously. You have no control over it. Meaning, once you're not motivated, you have no idea how to motivate yourself, right? That's pretty much all dieters. Okay. But when you do get motivated, it feels like it comes out of nowhere and you have no control over it, which is not true, but that's how you experience it. Now, what triggers your motivation? What triggers your motivation if you're a dieter? Pain. I bet all of you, the times you actually start a plan are after you felt a lot of pain. You stepped on the scale and it was higher than you thought. You finally faced it. You had to go to the doctors and face it firsthand. You saw a picture of yourself. Some clothes you always swore would fit, now they're getting tight and don't fit right. Someone said something shitty to you about your weight. Something really painful happens and it triggers you to get so upset. You say, that's it, I've got to lose this weight. Then you jump into a real intense diet. You do that for a little while. And what's interesting, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't with this, because let's just say you jump into a plan, it's too hard. You just quit. You don't want to do it, whatever. And you stop. Right. And so now your motivation goes, right? Because you're not getting results. And you just kind of, that pain's gone. This sucks. And you just ignore it. But what's even worse is you actually get results, because what happens? You start and you're so upset. You're so upset about your weight. You're so upset you let this happen to yourself. And now you start dieting. That's it. I'm going to do it. And now you start getting results. So now the weight starts going down. Good, right? Not in this scenario, because your motivation depends on you being really upset with yourself. See what I mean? Right? Because your motivation, if you're a dieter, your weight loss motivation is a pain-based one. You get really fired up and motivated in the beginning because you're really upset about something. The picture, the scale, the doctor's office, someone saying something, clothes not fitting, catching your reflection. You get really upset. And now let's say you start to lose weight. Well, now you lose weight. Now you're not as upset. Now you're kind of excited. But now you're feeling excited, and now the motivation's not as high. It's a slippery slope. So again, to me, in Program Yourself Thin, the reason I start with motivation is because I don't see the point of doing anything. I don't see the point of doing any of this other stuff if you're not motivated. To me, we say this in the program, that motivation metaphorically is kind of like the engine of the car. You know, obviously the car's got no engine, it ain't going nowhere. I mean, you could push it, right? You can still push the car, but that takes a whole lot of energy. You can put a small engine in it, it ain't going to go very fast or very far. So really understanding how to motivate yourself to a white hot level, I think is crucial. I sit before you as someone who lost over 50 pounds over 30 years ago. I'm as motivated and focused and excited about eating well and living well and thinking well and maintaining my weight as I was when I was losing weight 30 years ago. And it's because I use the science of motivation. There is literally a science of motivation. A lot of people don't know this. Right. So if you don't understand intrinsic, extrinsic motivation, if you haven't studied the science of motivation at all, what are you doing? I mean, how are you going to succeed with your weight? Exactly. Because I'm just going to do it, Jim. What's that mean? What does that mean? What does I'm just going to do it mean? You know, at some point, you dieters have got to look at your motivation. It's always what fades. And that's what, as your motivation fades, so does your behavior. It's so obvious. And the truth is that none of you know how to motivate yourself. You know how to be motivated when you're fired up. And then once it fades, you have no idea how to dial up your motivation at all. If you don't know how to influence your motivation at all, what are you doing? That's a crazy thing. And I'm not picking on you. Please understand this. I am picking on the diets. You know, folks, your ability to manage your weight is much higher than you realize, but you have been programmed by the diet industry your entire life to not understand how to do it. Dieting is one of the biggest psychological operations in history. The diet industry is the branch of the food processing industry. Weight Watchers was owned by Heinz. Jenny Craig was owned by Nestle. Atkins Food Products owned by the same company as Auntie Anne's Pretzels and Cinnabons. Slim Fast owned by the same company owns Ben & Jerry's ice cream. These companies do not want you to lose weight and keep it off. They do not want you to stop eating their shitty foods. And so they've drilled and installed this concept of dieting into our brains, and it's now become the only way people can think about losing weight on their own. And it doesn't work at all. It doesn't work for anyone. And when I say it doesn't work for anyone, I'm speaking statistically, because statistics put the numbers from anywhere from 85 to 95% failure rate. People that lose weight on a diet, a substantial amount, okay, over 20%. Because I had some dipshit ask me, oh, you're just throwing dumb numbers out. Stop throwing dumb numbers out. Not dumb numbers. I'm not throwing dumb numbers out. I'm not going to explain every single stat I put out there. But yeah, so I say 95% of dieters fail. But I mean, you can find legit 40,000 people studies that study people in their weight loss, and people that have lost over 20%, failure rates are 83 to 95% of people that lost over 20% of their body weight put it back on. Only 5 to 17% of people that lose weight keep it off. Now, I'm obsessed with these people. I'm obsessed with people that lost weight and kept it off. And everything I'm sharing with you is from those people. I don't know what the hell I was talking about. But yeah, motivation, that's what I was talking about. So anyways, you got to figure out how to stay motivated. You never learn that. Dieting doesn't teach you how to get motivated. It waits for you until you get motivated. Once you're really motivated, the dumb diets are waiting there for you. But dieting, I've not seen a single diet that shows you how to deal with your motivation. Have you? Please let me know this one. I haven't asked this question so specifically. Please, anyone here, and there's a lot of people here with a lot of experience, please tell me about a program you did that showed you how to deal with your motivation, how to motivate yourself. Because I'm going to compare mine, right? I'm not making this up. I'm looking at the mindset thing. The very first part is motivation. You'll see, I'll show you. Right there, your motivation, powering your weight loss goal journey. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation. We dial it right in. The questions that fire you up. So if you're not motivated, you can come back and remind yourself of why you're doing this in the first place. And if that doesn't fire you up the second time, then we got to tweak it. Do you have any plan to do that? Has anyone ever tell me the program that showed you how to get motivated to lose weight, how to crank your motivation up? Please let me know that. I would love to know. Yeah. And I don't even care if you took the program. I'm just talking like, even if you just heard of the program, I just want to know the program that's taught you how to crank your motivation up and how to deal with your motivation. Mark says, how do you study the science of motivation? The science of motivation? Yeah. Sandy says, yeah, you're right. No program. Am I right? I don't know. Have you all ever heard of any weight loss program ever that showed you how to boost your motivation, how to keep yourself motivated, how to get yourself motivated? Because let me ask you this. If you can't think of a single weight loss program that shows you how to deal with your motivation, okay, then what? What are you going to do? Because we have to reflect on what you've done in the past to lose weight. And we have to reflect on why you've stopped in the past. Are you going to tell me that your level of motivation hasn't been one of the main factors? And so if you think your motivation is really important and you look at all the weight loss plans you've done and they don't talk about motivation, how to motivate yourself at all, how are you ever going to get better results? Oh, yeah, Mark. Mark says, yes, I agree. So how do you study this? Well, I mean, obviously program yourself then. But if you want to study on your own, I'm not a gatekeeper here. I think my favorite guy, I'm trying to think if I want to get up and get the book. I don't. Why We Do What We Do, I think, is a good starting point. I've read tons of books on motivation. So I can't listen, program yourself. Then I had to create on my own, folks. I will tell you that you go look around. I don't think you're going to find. So here's the goal weight pyramid. I don't think you're going to find this anywhere. I say that because I didn't get taught this from one place. I've been at this for over 30 years. I'm obsessed with this stuff. For years, I read 50 books a year. I've gone through so many programs. I'm a certified yoga instructor. I'm a certified master hypnotist and NLP trainer. I'm a strategic coach, but I study this stuff obsessively, and I'm obsessed with weight. So everything I read neuroscientifically, motivationally, psychologically, it's always aimed at weight. So how do you learn it? How do you study this? I mean, you can do what I did. You know what I mean? You could spend 30 years, do 6,000 private weight loss sessions, read thousands of books, watch hundreds of programs. That's how you can do it. You can start with William DCIE. He's my favorite motivation scientist, I would say. So I think that's a shortcut, but that's how you study it, honestly. You know what I mean? You get the program, we just go through it. Because I do have trainings on this section. Because again, one thing you'll notice, excuse me, with program yourself thin, one thing I think it's important to know. Oh, I see it's not on here. So this book is a PDF. You also get the PDF. And so each section, so we have like your motivation, right? We go through it. With every section there is to fill out, there's 2 companion videos. One is a training, which is about 20 minutes or so, where I'll do a deep dive into motivation and talk about all these concepts. The other video is me walking you through filling these questions out. So again, there's no program like this, but yeah. So how do you learn on your own? You know what I mean? I guess those are the 2 options. You know what I mean? You study it all and get obsessed with it and study it, everything you can read. Or you can program yourself then. Sorry, can you repeat that person's name? I believe it's William Deci, and I don't know how to say his last name. DECI, though, is how it's spelled. So again, I'm kind of bad at like reading words and then saying them wrong. Let's see. Amy says, Jim, do you have hypnosis and suggestions to help deep, stubborn, sedentary tendencies? Almost like I'm hiding behind my work laptop in the most OCD ADD way, to be superhero for others to avoid myself. Terrible, I know, but raw honesty with huge issues for me. Wow, Amy, I appreciate the honesty. I value that more than anything. As a coach, I value honesty more than anything else in the coaching relationship. It makes, boy, it's like rocket fuel. I will tell you that, So I appreciate you being honest there. I'm not gatekeeping an answer. I will tell you this. If I have a simple answer and I can give it to you, I will just give it to you, folks. I'm here to help you all out. That being said, unfortunately, most answers are rarely just like a simple hack or answer away. Usually I always think most problems require a double-edged solution of mindset and strategy. I think partly mindset, partly strategy. And so do you have hypnosis and suggestions to help deep, stubborn, sedentary tendencies? Right off the bat, mindset-wise, that's not how I would want to frame my question, Amy. I would want to frame my question in the positive. So right now you're describing to me what you don't like about yourself and you want to stop doing it. So you want to stop being sedentary, okay? But that doesn't give your brain any direction that you want to go in. All right. So the first question I want to get to is I say, okay, I'm really sedentary. I can spend hours at this laptop and I want to be more active. Okay. So the first step becomes, okay, what do you want to be? Well, I'd like to get up from my desk every 90 minutes and do some jumping jacks. I'd like to get up and move more because it'd be healthier for me. I'd be happier. I'd move. So I don't know what the reasons you want to do that for are, Amy, but we need to get to those. So the motivation's tied into this, but we need to get more specific. What do you want to do then? If you weren't sedentary, what would you do? How would that be? Why would you want to do that? And that's the path I would start walking down to start dealing with what you're dealing with. Rosa says, I have Hashimoto's and I've been told to do keto, carnivore, count calories, look into holistic nutrition, eat whole foods. I'm just so damn confused. This is contributing to my weight gain. I'm also pre-diabetic. Got any advice? Yeah, Rosa, I feel for you. And that's why I'm here every single day, because I think there's so many good people out there struggling with overwhelm. And that's very intentional. The diet industry, which is a branch of the food processing industry, very intentionally is just drowning you in information because a stuck brain just does the same thing. You know what I mean? Like a confused, overwhelmed brain just keeps doing the same thing it always does. So that's very intentional. What I will say to you, Rosa, I think you're into the right path of eating whole foods. I think that's always a great starting point, and you can't go wrong no matter what the situation is. I've never seen anyone go wrong with eating whole foods. Now, some whole foods may or may not agree with you, and you may have to figure that out. But at the end of the day, when you have a diet primarily steeped in whole foods, that's the foundation of it. I think that's going to be the foundation of your success. So that's the path I would start to go down. But again, I hear you say, I don't know, again, it's a mindset thing. So much of weight is a mindset thing. And dealing with overwhelm is a huge factor. That's what my clients are always overthinkers, overworkers, overaction takers, perfectionists. And they listen to all the podcasts, they read all the books, and they're just drowning in information. A million ideas and no real clear way of which one to go with. So that's a real common thing, Rosa. What I would suggest to you, let me type this in there. I'm going to put this link in here. I would strongly suggest you go and get into my world. You'll get a free hypnosis session. And this is true for, if you're in TikTok land, just click on the link in my bio. But if you're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, you can click the link in that link I just put in there. Go there and go get the hypnosis session, because I give you all sorts of stuff. And I think it'll help you get a little clearer on how to move forward, Rosa. So, but you can absolutely, even with all those issues you're dealing with, you absolutely can get a better handle on your weight. I can't tell you the number of people I've worked with that have Hashimoto's, PCOS, insulin resistance, all of it. And I've seen all of them lose weight. So you can do it. All right. Superintendent Eric Andrews says, I've been a tremendous help, lost over 150 pounds. Screenshot that. That'll go on the old testimonial wall. Nice job, Eric. Proud of you. That's a super, super job. 150 pounds. That's quite an accomplishment. So keep it up. Keep it up. What's up, Lindsay? Lindsay says, hey, Jim, I've been thinking today about how there can be a difference between needing to eat less food and needing to start eating different foods to achieve a healthy weight. For example, if you're not eating a well-balanced diet, your body requests more food for nutrients. But if you were eating the proper whole foods, you can reduce your intake without your body having a survival response because you're getting enough nutrients. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Lindsay. And I like the way you phrased that. Yes, agreed. I think, I just think a whole food diet, I'm keeping that really vague and simple. Just whole foods, natural foods, whatever form that comes in, or whatever type of whole food you like. Okay. But if we keep it whole natural, that to me seems like the best strategy moving forward to give you a solid foundation to build on. And exactly for that reason, because when you're eating more whole natural foods, you're giving your body more nutrients that it needs. And that is impacting your hunger, your appetite, your energy, your focus, all these things. So I think natural whole foods is really one of the most practical and beneficial ways you can impact your eating. So yes, agreed 1,000%, Lindsay. Lois says, so true for dieting. Looking at the future, thin me is so much better. Yes, agreed, Lois. Good job, Lois. You're doing great with the program. Nice job. Demi says, well, can you tell us what questions to ask ourselves to get motivated again? I mean, I can tell you, I'm not gatekeeping. Please understand. If there was some magical question I could ask and it would just fill you with motivation, I would tell it to you. Please understand that. But again, there's nuance. You know, it's like let's just say, let's put it in a different context. It would be like someone saying, you don't know anything about carpentry, but you're like, just tell me how to build that room. Tell me how to build a room. I just want to know how to build a room. Tell me what's the most important thing of building that room. Well, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like, you have to have the full knowledge. So there's not one magical question that just fixes it, because I could tell you there are magical questions, but they're not really activated unless you have like the contextual mindset background to understand them in. Does that make sense? Because I'll give you an example of what I mean. I couldn't just tell you like, oh, here's the question, because one of the first things we do in Program Yourself Thin is fix your mindset so that you can properly be motivated. Because the very first mindset shift I think you need to make if you're going to join Program Yourself Thin is that you got to stop thinking like a dieter. And the biggest difference of what that means is that dieters are motivated by getting to their goal weight. So you don't realize this yet, because all of you, if you're not in Program Yourself Thin, you're a dieter. Unless you're at your goal weight. But if you're overweight and been struggling with it and you try to lose weight, you're a dieter. You think like a dieter. And subconsciously, what you value and what you think the goal is to get to your goal weight. And what that does subconsciously is it makes you think of this process as a temporary one. You think of it as, I'm going to do this until I lose the weight. That's how you think of it. And the second you think of it like that, you're cooked. It's not going to happen. Your motivation is totally different, because your motivation is all built around how fast can I get to my weight? How fast can I get there? But the second you ask, how fast can I get to my goal weight? Now your brain comes up with the most extreme plans, because the only way to get the fastest weight loss is do the most extreme thing. So this is why I say I can't just give you a question, because your whole mindset is off, because you value losing weight as fast as possible more than anything else. So that is blocking you from the real motivation. Because the truth is, this isn't a temporary thing. Because let me ask you the question, folks, how long you want to keep the weight off for? How long would you like to be thin and healthy for? A year, 2 years, 6 months, 10 years? It's silly, right? It's silly when I ask that, because you're like, no, forever. So with that question, you want to be thin and healthy forever. But if I say, okay, we need a plan that you can do for the rest of your life, because managing your weight is a never-ending marathon, now you feel discouraged and sad. But over here, you want to be thin and healthy forever. But then when you think about doing it, you're sad, because you think about doing it like a dieter. So again, I'm not gatekeeping amazing questions from you, I promise. What I'm saying is that your mindset really isn't going to get the full value out of the questions. Okay. But I will give you a question too. I'm not here. I am not gatekeeping. So, but you're going to see this. You're like, oh, that's the question. That's the question. I'm not motivated now, but here we go. Here's what we start with in Program Yourself Thin. In Program Yourself Thin, I've seen the best results come from when weight loss is not the main thing. So in Program Yourself Thin, we very intentionally take the weight loss and wrap it in personal development, so that it's not just about losing weight. It's about becoming the best version of you possible. So I would want to know, Demi, who's the best Demi that you can imagine yourself to be? And when I ask this question to you, I want you to start thinking about your life, not just your weight. I want you to think about your relationships, the most important relationships in your life, the most important areas of your life. What matters most to you in your life, Demi? And now I want you to imagine those areas of your life at their highest level, you being your best in your relationships, at your work, in the areas of your life that are most important, having energy, being healthy, being able to move comfortably, feeling good about yourself, speaking the way you want to speak, presenting yourself the way you want to present yourself, being the person you want to be in your life. Think about that for a second. And now imagine what weight you're at when you imagine yourself as that person. And hopefully you've tapped into a little bit more motivation than you typically do. Please don't judge it on this because, again, without the mindset, it doesn't really mean a whole lot, and without the depth of it. But that's an idea, is that we want to start thinking about who's the best Demi you can imagine yourself to be, and make this about being the best Demi possible more than about being a lighter Demi. Do you understand? Because just being lighter, we can be lighter and be miserable. We've all done it. If weight loss didn't make you miserable, folks, you wouldn't stop doing it. You can lose weight and still be miserable. That's why you all are overweight, because you lost the weight, and the way you did it was so miserable that even though you were losing weight, you didn't give a shit and you put the weight back on. Pretty simple. Okay. So the secret is if we just focus on weight, there's not a whole lot of motivation there. Once we start thinking about being the best version of yourself possible, now we're able to tap into a lot more motivation, because again, the best version of you, there's still the weight component. So that's still there. We just have all this other stuff too. And when you start to reorient yourself to all those things, that's the starting point of creating way more motivation that lasts. Claire says, motivation is fleeting depending on what you are trying to lose the weight for. You're right. It's intrinsic to the journey of healthy eating. I think resilience is also a factor in the trauma response. Food is a great hug. Agreed, Claire. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate all that. I don't believe that motivation's fleeting, though. I know I've had this argument with a lot of people, and I don't believe that, because I think things you're truly motivated about are not fleeting. You know, like if you're a parent, the motivation to be a parent for your kid. Now, I mean, some days you're a better parent, some days you're worse, energy, all the rest of it. But your motivation to be a parent is always pretty consistent. If you have a job, your motivation to go to work is pretty consistent. Now, you may call it a different word, I don't know, but I call it motivation. And I believe there's absolutely areas of my life that my motivation is just pinned to a high level. And your weight can be one of those. So my motivation is pinned to a high level when it comes to my weight. My motivation to be the parent I want to be, the husband I want to be, the business owner I want to be. They're all pinned to a high level, and I show up for them regularly every day. So, but agreed. Most people have no idea. Most people don't know motivation. It's not motivation people feel most of the time when it comes to weight loss. It's like excitement. You know what I mean? It's not even excitement. It's just temporary. I don't know. I got to find another word for it, but it's not, I think of it as different as well. You could call it motivation, but it's an ungrounded motivation. It doesn't last for most people. And while I may have the words difference between them, I could explain it and I could show you, for sure. But I appreciate you sharing that. Yes. And I agree. The trauma response and all this stuff is absolutely a part of this. Sanjita says, please guide me how to sign in the program. Sanji, if you're in the program and you're looking to log into it, you just shoot me an email, Jim@programyourselfthin. And if you want to get into the program, I'd suggest go to the link I put in there, go to programyourselfthin.com/hypno, or click on that and go sign up for the hypnosis session. Watch the training. Watch the training first, because if you can't make it through the 20-minute training, there's no point in signing up for the program. If you can't make it through a 20-minute video, you're never going to go through the program. So please don't order it. I'm not here to sell the program to people that can't get through it. And if you can't get through a 20-minute video, you'll never get through the program. So don't do it. But if you get through the training, there's a special offer made and it explains the program and it'll make sure you're a good fit and all the rest of it. So that's the way I would suggest. I can't read your username. It says, why does starting always feel so hard? That's the funniest question in the world. I appreciate you asking that question. Why does starting to lose weight feel so hard? Is so funny to me. The funniness of it is the fact that you are acting like you don't know the answer to that. Any dieter that asks me, why is starting so hard? Like, it's always so funny. It's so obvious. It's so obvious, But think about this, dieters. This is not a trick question. This is not a trick question. Why does this feel so hard to start? Well, because it's really hard. Because dieting is wicked hard. What's the plan? You're going to start your diet on Monday being 100% perfect. That's the dieter mindset in a nutshell. The core of the dieter mindset is the same for all diets. This is why all diets are the same. Do you understand this? This is the biggest nugget of wisdom I think you can get out of listening to me right here, is that it doesn't matter if you're doing carnivore, keto, Weight Watchers, vegan, literally you name any diet you can think of to me. And I'm going to tell you how they're all exactly the same. They all start 100% on day one. No matter which plan you're going to do, you're going to start at 100% on that day. 100%. I'm only eating meat now. I'm not eating any carbs now. I'm going to count every point now. I'm not eating for 16 hours now. You know what I mean? It's always this diving into it 100%. And guess what? That's really hard. You know, I always use the example that imagine your whole life you've been learning, if you want to play the piano, you got to play 8 hours a day. If you're serious about learning to play the piano, you got to play 8 hours a day. You know, and you go and you sit down, you do your 8 hours, and you wake up the next day and your fingers are cramped. You hate the piano. You're dreading sitting there again. That's metaphorically what all you dieters are doing. You're starting off 100 miles an hour and you just wonder how long you can last. So that's why starting always feels so hard. You know, starting doesn't have to feel hard. Let me give you an example. And Program Yourself Thin, you know how you start? You wake up tomorrow morning and listen to your 5-minute hypnosis session in the morning. You go through your day more relaxed and calm, making better choices. And then at night, you do your 60-second mental rehearsal technique. And then if you're really committed, you listen to the 10-minute nighttime session. Go to sleep. Okay, so that's what you do each day if you're motivated. And then in addition to that, you start filling out your goal weight blueprint. So you start really understanding that all the different pieces of the puzzle that are controlling your weight, and you start improving them. You have a busy week, you don't work so much on that. You just do the 5 minutes and the 10 minutes at night and the programming technique. You know? So that's not so hard. You know what I mean? So why it's so hard is because the diets are hard. Because the diets have sold you on doing this really difficult thing all at once so you get the fastest results possible. And every diet is exactly the same in that message. And that's why people struggle so hard. You know? Yep. Mickey says, yep, even if your goal weight range, you can still have the tireder mentality. Yep. Until you start to challenge the diet mentality. Yep. Yeah, diet mentality. You can absolutely have a diet mentality at your goal weight. Most dieters do. And that's why they put the weight back on, unfortunately. Yep. Yep. Vicky. And again, Vicky, I say this all the time, but Vicky joined the program as a Weight Watchers lifetime member. So she knew a lot about managing her weight. It was the mindset piece. And she mentions it was Program Yourself Thin's mindset emphasis that was my missing link. So again, even someone who's thrived at, done as good as you can do at Weight Watchers, it was missing the mindset component to it, you know? So. Demi says, thank you for your response, Jim. I can't afford to renew my membership with you yet. Oh, wait. Okay. So Demi, you were in the program. Shoot me a message, Demi. I do have a program. I haven't really made it available very much, but it's a very low price program that can keep you in the game. You know, and with that program each week you get there's a new hypnosis session, and you get two versions. You get the hypnosis session, a sleep hypnosis. They're 10-minute sessions. They're solid. They're good ones. You get a lesson for that week. And then there's the hypnosis sessions related to that lesson. And so that's a program that's a real low cost one. And again, I haven't been promoted too much, but if you've been through the program and you want to kind of get into it, that's a great one. And then at some point, if you want to join the Thrive program, that keeps you going pretty much like you were in the program. Claire says, I hear you about the motivation relating to parenting and work. I think the issue here is that I have to show up for others, and there's an element of reputation and responsibility. I don't value myself enough to put my motivation near the top of my list. Claire, thank you so much for answering that. I really appreciate that, Claire. Thank you. Because again, you just highlighted my point that when you put the weight on its own, you separate yourself from it. And all of a sudden you can say, well, I can't put myself up here because I got these other people I need to show up for. But when you start to think about how you're showing up for those other people, Claire. So this to me, also we'll talk a little bit about motivation. And I think this is a huge distinction, is that I think with dieters always try and just all of a sudden make weight loss more important. Right. So all of a sudden, that's it. Now it's really important to me. I haven't focused on it for 6 months, but now it's the most important thing in the world to me. And so dieters try and make their weight loss the most important thing in the world. And it almost never can stay up there. It always goes back to where it goes. Okay. So I think dieters try and make weight loss all of a sudden more important. And I never see it work, very rarely. What I see actually working is when we take the weight loss and wrap it around the things that are already important to you. So for you, Claire, see, you're playing mental gymnastics where you think your weight is, that's just for me and I don't deserve this. I got to show up for these other people. What I would do is I would say, you're not able to show up for these other people that you take so seriously. I have to show up for others. And there's an element of reputation responsibility. Is there? Okay. I'll agree with you. I'll meet you there. But are you really showing up the way you want to? Are you going to be able to separate your weight and all the effects it has on you psychologically, mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically? Are you just going to take those out of the equation and imagine you can show up for those other people in those other areas of your life as highly as you could if you got your weight and your health and your happiness under control? This is a hard pill to swallow. I don't disagree with this, because what I'm saying is your weight issues and all the effects that those cause on you are directly impacting your ability to be the parent you want to be, the partner you want to be, the son, daughter you want to be, the worker you want to be, the entrepreneur you want to be, whatever is important in your life. I don't know what the most important areas of your life are. Whatever your most important areas of your life are, Claire, the ones you show up for every week, even when you're tired, even when you're sick. Those people, those situations, those areas are directly being impacted by your weight. And so you saying, oh yeah, but this is me and I'm just doing this for me, but I got to show up for them. That is bullshit, because you are impacting the way you're able to show up for those other situations and people based on how you show up for yourself. So you're playing a weird little game with yourself that is absolutely not true. It's complete, it's made up bullshit. This idea that I have to show up for them because they're relying on me, but this over here, this is just for me, so I'm going to put off to the side and make it secondary. I know you feel that way, and I know it feels true. I don't disagree with that. But when you say I don't value myself enough to put my motivation near the top of the list, that is simultaneously saying I don't value these other people either. When you start thinking to yourself, Claire, at the level you want, imagine if you did put yourself first. Let's think of it this way. Let's think of Claire putting herself first, taking her weight, her health, her happiness, her energy, her emotions seriously, putting them at the top of the list. Now let's think of Claire in that situation. Who does she become? Now, how does that Claire show up for the other people in your life? How does that Claire show up for these other responsibilities in your life that you take so seriously? And don't tell me you don't imagine yourself a whole nother level higher. But what you did is very common. See, you're playing a weird mental game with yourself. Oh, I can't put myself first. I got to do this. It's an illusion. That's an illusion. It's not real. That is not real. But it's common. I've dealt with that many times with my clients. So you're not the only one. I'm not picking on you. I'm trying to help you. Just understand that. I know it can sting a little bit. All right, got to get out of here. So again, if any of you are not in my world, please get in here. If you like this, if you don't like it, get the hell out of here. You're not invited. I'm joking. You're always invited. Go check it out. But go get the free hypnosis session I made for you. It's called The New Thin Me. It's a kickstart session. It's 10 minutes long. It's a really good session. Go check it out. And then once you opt in for that, I got a bunch of stuff for you as well. That's all free. Okay. And if you like this here, I'm here every Monday through Friday, usually around noon Eastern. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to pop in and ask them. Let me do what I can to try and help you. And if you can't make the live and you like listening to this, go to any podcast platform, search Program Yourself Thin, and you can listen whenever you like. All right. Anytime you want. So thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate the comments. They're really, really good today. I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a super day, and we'll talk soon. Bye, everyone.